are your total liabilities. Total liabilities were about $8.7 million. And there was very little change for about $8.7 million also in 2016. The last section are the total fund balances. Total fund balances were about $15.7 million at June 30th, 2017, or an increase of about $1.8 million from the prior year. And of that fund balance of $15.7 million, we have about $482,000 that are considered to be reserved or restricted for special or specific purposes. Then turn to the second page. This is the condensed statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Again, for the four operating funds. First section, right-hand side, total revenues. The actual revenues of your operating funds were about $39.2 million for the year into June 30, 2017, or an increase of about $831,000. Your next section down are your total expenditures, about $37.3 million, or a decrease of about $3.3 million in your expenditures, and that equates to about an 8% decrease in your operating fund expenditures for the year. Next section down is other financing sources and uses. You had transfers from your working cash funds to the transportation fund, and that netted about $105,000 for the year, which leaves you with excess for the year of about $1.8 million compared to a deficiency for the prior year of about $1.5 million. And again, your ending fund balance in your operating funds is about $15.7 million. If you want to then turn to the following page, condensed statement of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balances. This is just for the educational fund of the district or the main operating fund. About halfway down the page, total revenues for the educational fund were about $34.6 million, or an increase of about $556,000 from 2016. A couple of the major items that changed up in the top section. Your local sources, your real estate taxes were about $11.6 million. Those were up about $299,000. That's due strictly to your increase in your assessed valuation was up about 3% over the prior year. Your replacement taxes were about $1.5 million. Those were up $172,000 over the prior year. Next section down are your state sources. The state sources were about $16.4 million, or an increase of $300,000 from the prior year. A couple of larger items. The first item in that section is your general state aid. That was about $15 million. That was up about $1.3 million from the prior year. All that is not an increase in your state aid. Overall, throughout all the funds of the district, the state aid increased about $600,000. There was some reallocation of general state aid in 2017 between some of the funds. So the total state aid was up only about $600,000 to the district for 2017. You had federal sources then about $4 million, and that was down approximately $100,000. Next section down are your expenditures. You had total expenditures of $33.2 million, or a decrease of about $2.4 million from 2016. A couple of the larger items, salaries. Salaries were $21.5 million. That was a decrease of about $1 million, or 4.6%. And the fifth item down is called other objects. It's about $5.9 million. That is mainly your special education payments. That was down about $616,000 for the year. That leaves you with excess for the year of about $1.3 million and a fund balance in your educational fund of about $10.8 million. If you want to turn into the next page, the operations and maintenance fund. the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. About a quarter of the way down the page, total revenues were about $2.9 million, slightly increased about $11,000 for the year. Your total expenditures for the year are about $2 million. Those decreased about $945,000. The major item there is about halfway in the expenditure section, your capital outlay was $173,000. That was down about $725,000 for the year. That leaves you with a change or decrease, or sorry, increase in your fund balance of about $850,000. And that leaves you with a fund balance of about $2.1 million. You had your fund balance in 2015 was about $350,000. So as you can see, you had gotten very low, and over the past 2 years, the district's made a conscious effort to build that fund balance back up in your operations and maintenance fund to a more safe level there. If you turn to the next page, this is the revenues expenses for the transportation fund. About halfway down the page, you had total revenues of about $1.5 million. That's up about $260,000. The majority of the change is up in your local section, real estate taxes. They were about $654,000, or an increase of $250,000 for the year. You did increase the tax rate from 10 cents to 20 cents there in 2017. So that accounts for the largest increase in your real estate taxes. Total expenditures were about $2 million. Again, in 2016, about $2 million, so a slight increase of $26,000 for the year. That left you with a deficiency for the year of about $482,000. You transferred in about $1.1 million from the working cash fund. It leaves you with an increase for the year of about $632,000 and an ending fund balance of about $1.2 million for your transportation fund. You turn the next page, it's a line graph comparing operating funds, total revenues and expenditures. See, the blue line represents revenues, the red line represents your expenditures. As you can see from the graph, the previous 4 fiscal years, the district had been deficit spending. In 2017, due to the significant reductions in expenditures, the operating funds were about 8%, and a small increase in revenues, which was about 2%. The operating funds showed a surplus. As you can see, you had to make some tough decisions with some cuts that has paid off with the financial condition of the district. If you then turn to the last page, this is just a graph of the operating funds, fund balances. As you can see, in 2012, the total fund balances of the operating funds were about $22.8 million. As you can see from the downward trend of the line, obviously you have deficit spending. You're spending down your reserves and your fund balance. So at 2017, you had about $15.7 million in fund balances. So over the last 5 to 6 years, the fund balance has decreased about $7.1 million due to the deficit spending or spending down of the reserves. So during the year, the district made significant reductions, which resulted in a surplus for the year. At June 30th, 2017, the district had adequate cash reserves. You can see from the first page in the slide. Given the uncertain financial condition and situation at the state and what they're going to do with their funding of general state aid and the rest of the categorical payments, you do receive about 45% of your total operating fund revenues from state sources. So it is a significant portion of your funding for the district. I would just suggest that due to that uncertainty with the state, that you continue to monitor and control your costs as much as you possibly can. You are fairly limited on generating new revenues, so you have to, and without knowing what the state's gonna do, really the main thing you can control are your expenses. And, very good job for this year, it's nice to see a nice turnaround here in the financial year. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm not sure who gets directed to, if it's an audit or a finance question. On page 2, where it says the excess, and you highlighted that to us. It went from, in 2007, we budgeted a deficiency of a little over $1.5 million. Our actual was close to being positive of $2 million. What accounts for that a swing of close to $3 million? Is that a budgetary question? Does that make sense?
Right, so there were additional reductions that were made throughout the year. We chose the decision not to replace certain positions.
During the school year?
Yes, like during the last budgeting cycle. The other two is that we're very conservative when we're budgeting for our categoricals and also for our GSA payments, because we knew the state at the time when we entered into this budget was behind about $8 million in bills. So we weren't entirely sure, so we took that into account that we would not receive all of our general state aid payments, which thankfully we did. And we did receive 3 out of the 4 categoricals, which was more than we had budgeted for. So that accounts for.
Does that be a revenue issue, the amount of money received? I was questioning the excess of things. Okay.
Yeah.
And one other thing, there was a refund right around I think after the end of the year from the special ed co-op, Knox Warren, of $400,000, which was not expected.
That was something categorical. And our CPPRT money was actually up
Right.
last year as well.
Is up about $172,000.
Unfortunately, this year they're reducing it. So we won't see that this year.
One more question. Being highlighted on the 5th page, saying that they get transferred in the working cash fund. When does that get paid back?
It doesn't end up coming as transfer.
Yeah, the board would have had to approve a resolution to abate a portion of the working cash fund.
So we borrowed we sold working cash bonds to support the transportation fund of $1 million.
There were monies in working cash before, so we used the working cash bond money that we had borrowed a couple of years ago to do health aid businesses. These were existing funds that were already in there.
This is the transportation fund that was asking.
Correct, but I'm saying there was monies in the working cash fund prior to selling those working cash bonds 18 months ago, 20 months ago. We used that money for health and safety workers. So there was money in there prior to selling those working cash bonds. That's in essence the money that we transferred into transportation. We levy for working cash every year, so that money builds up over time.
Any other questions?
Feel free to contact me anytime if you come up with any questions later on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
What I will say is that I know that at times sitting out in the audience or reading comments about how the district is now in a better place financially can sting and fall hard in times, because we did have to go through so many cuts in order to get there. But I want folks to understand and recognize that part of our role as a board is to make sure that our school finances are in a situation so that we are able to continue on providing education to our school children, but also so that we're in a rating area, so that if we need to move forward to do any other kind of work on loans or bonds or things, that we're in a position that we're able to do that. So while it may sound harsh, or it may sound as if, oh wow, the district's saving money or cutting positions, it's not an even balance. It's not as if because we now have some cash on hand or that our surplus has increased just a tad bit, that means that we're flush with money. We're still in a precarious situation. We're talking about the fact that the reserves that Mr. Holton referenced, we were at a position of $22 million in our reserves. And we spent down to 15 million before we made any cuts. And that was the bottom that we could do because we have to have enough working cash on hand and enough in our financial capacity to fund the district and pay salaries and et cetera if in the case of any crisis. So just want to be clear on that. While it can sound harsh and we're getting praised because we made reductions in order to be at a financial gain here, it's not that it's lost on us what it took us to get there. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, your fund balance was down at the end of last year, 2016, to under $14 million. So without the surplus this year, you would have been in a lot worse financial position.
I got a quick question concerning that. What would be a safe number that we subscribe to as far as not losing fund balance?
I typically recommend that at a minimum, your fund balance would be 25% of your annual expenditures. That's a minimum amount, so obviously the higher level you can have, would be better. That's about 90 days worth of expenditures.
So 25% to 90 days.
Get a product. Tim commented, you still have not received your fourth categorical payment from the state, and who knows if you're gonna ever receive them, so. The state did have another budget problem, and they weren't paying general state aid as they threatened, and they could only operate for so long if you didn't have the reserves there.
Is that typically what other districts have about 25%?
It's kind of all over the board. I mean, some are a lot less, some are a lot more. Yes, a lot of the rural districts that I work on are kind of at a lower level than more of the urban districts.
Well, and I would also say that districts that are property tax rich will oftentimes have a lot lower fund balance actually because they can get that predictable revenue. So like when I worked up in Lake County and our EADs, 800 million, we kept a much lower fund balance because we knew every year we were going to get a certain amount of property tax revenue. So we didn't have to worry about keeping fund balances very high. Whereas when you're more reliant on state aid, you don't want to get it too low because the money might not come in, and the property taxes don't give you enough money to pay your bills. So it actually is an inverse of what people may think. Oh, if your property tax wealthy, you'll have huge reserves. No. I know like Lake Forest High School would have like 5% because they knew they were going to get the money. They didn't worry about it because when the property taxes came, they paid the bills. So when you're more dependent on state aid, it's typically better to get more than a 25% fund balance, and I would say other districts I've worked in use for at least 40%, just because of that necessity to have the cash flow for when the state doesn't pay the bills.
Right, and with Knox County here, you did receive approximately 50% of your real estate tax levy for the 17-18 year before June 30th, so that kind of inflates your cash at June 30th because you have received half of that levy for the 17-18 year.
And to just put it in perspective, our board bills and payroll average about $4 to $4.5 million a month. So 15 million sounds like a lot of money in the operating funds, but it really isn't for a district this size. I mean, we're talking less than 4 months if for some reason the state has no ability to pay us or can't pay us or won't pay us, depending on what the scenario is. So it doesn't take very long for a district this size to end up down here quickly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now we will move back to item 4 on our agenda and recognition of visitors. I do have 3 noted visitors here. I will, for the record, say that we are still in experimental phase with video recording / streaming of our meetings, correct?
That is absolutely
Video recording
correct.
and/or streaming.
All of the above.
All of it, okay. So with that being said, we just wanted folks to understand, and what that means is that it's actually, set for 180% view, so all of us, not all of you. Essentially
Correct.
is what that means.
That's correct.
Okay, so for the recognition of visitors, know that you will be asked by myself to come up and speak on any item germane to the own function of the Board of Education. When I direct, you can proceed to the podium and give your name. We no longer require you to give your address, just as an update. And you can begin your statement. You're asked to refrain from making any personal comments regarding any one individual, and reserve the right to limit presentations to 5 minutes. So first, we will have the Amazing Shape final national contestants. With us tonight, we have Mackenzie Musser, Lily McNally, and Keegan Musser.
Hello everyone, I'm Mackenzie Musser. I'm in 8th grade at Churchill Junior High School. As you may already know, the Great Goes for Shape was inspired by Wall Clark Academy's Amazing Shape and has become an annual event for District 205. The volunteer committee consists of various members of Galesburg's District 205 staff. The committee works countless hours to plan the shape each year. It wouldn't be possible without the community support they receive. Galesburg community members and businesses have provided funding for the shape, as well as serving as guest judges. As you can probably tell, the Great Galesburg Shape is very important to me. I have learned many things throughout my 3 years as a participant in the shape. The first year, I did not prepare because I did not know what to expect. After getting feedback and practicing to improve the skills I needed to succeed in the Great Galesburg Shape, I decided to try again, and I advanced to the second round. In 7th grade, I worked every morning with Miss Pat. Every morning, and I practiced every morning in order to achieve my goal of advancing farther than ever before. I'm proud to say I made it to the top 8 in 2017. The Great Shape has provided many opportunities for me over the last few years, and it has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Now here's Lily McNally to tell you about one of the other amazing experiences we had.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Like she said, I'm Lily McNally, and I'm an 8th grader at Lombard Middle School. Last year, I advanced all the way to round 5 in the Great Galesburg Shape, which gave me the opportunity to go and visit the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. This was a very special opportunity. Mr. Clark, his staff, and his students welcomed us and allowed us a sneak peek of the amazing things that happen in their school on a daily basis. That in itself was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, or so I thought. This coming February, RCA is hosting the first ever Amazing Shape Nationals, a competition for 5th through 8th graders that puts an emphasis on teaching students manners, discipline, respect, and professional conduct. The competition consists of case scenario stations set up around RCA and Atlanta that students must pass through while exercising etiquette and composure. Mackenzie, Hayden, and I would be honored to represent District 205, the Great Galesburg Shape, and the Galesburg community as competitors in the Amazing Shape Nationals. Maybe the best part of the Amazing Shape experience is that even if we do not advance, we still have a chance to attend scheduled workshops and learn from the best. Sorry. The Great Galesburg Shape has really changed me in lots of ways. Knowing that the committee volunteers time to plan, fundraise, and execute the Great Galesburg Shape just to make sure that District 205 students have the soft skills that we need to exceed in life really moves me to try my best every day and to set higher goals for myself, such as making sure to thank the cafeterias as they hand me my tray in the lunch line, and finally being able to ask the waitress for that packet of ketchup for my fries. No, really, you can ask it all. I honestly wouldn't before the Great Galesburg Shape. As the Great Shape continues to grow, I'm excited about the prospect of more and more District 205 students finally getting the opportunity to benefit in the same way I have. And I thank you for your consideration of our request to compete in the Amazing Shake Nationals. I promise that will all make District 205 proud. I'd like to finish up with a quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. A man's manners are a mirror in which he shows his portrait. Speaking of a man with manners, I'd like to introduce my friend Hayden Buster.
As you know, we had the opportunity to go to Atlanta for the Amazing Shake Nationals. This has been a dream of mine to visit the Long Park Academy since I was 8. I'm now a 5th grader at Steele Elementary. During this competition, we will learn and refine a lot of important skills such as handshake, eye contact, and how to carry a conversation. This opportunity will allow us to bring back what we learned to share with the students of Westford. Also, these skills are very important to our future, like getting a job interview or helping us with the scholarship process to college. Additionally, it will provide us ideas and experiences for our own destination. I'm asking you to consider sending us to Atlanta to not only better ourselves, but our school district and community. We are now available for questions.
I'd like to compliment all three of you on the points that you presented.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we have Kim seconding my bad. Here I pride myself on trying to know names because my knowledge is closely.
Try that in French.
Okay.
7J. I would not hold anyone accountable for trying to say that name. It took me 15 years to spell it, so we're all okay. I appreciate being able to come and have just a few minutes tonight. I talked to someone just prior to the meeting started, and I know that this is probably null and void, but I think our points are valid. So I just want to share a few things with the group. First of all, I stand here to represent the secretaries as a group. A school office secretary is a unique need. So imagine, if you would, you are sitting at your desk and the phone is ringing. Hello, Churchill. Now the door is buzzing and someone wants to come in, but you have 3 children standing in front of you and a teacher who needs a spreadsheet right now. That is a typical 2 minutes in our life, and it continues throughout the day, and we accept it and we love it. It's part of what we do, it's part of who we are, it's part of what makes us school secretaries. I wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about the changes that are going to be voted on. Some have already been changed unknowingly to us. But we just wanted to talk a little bit about, in the handbook, we're going to be made exempt employees. Now that raise was already given to us as a deficit of 1.5% from the 50 cents that we were getting in previous years. It doesn't seem like a lot of money. For some of us, it was 25 cents. But for some of us, that is a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, a jar of peanut butter, and a box of cereal. That is our children's lunch and breakfast during that pay period. So while $25 doesn't seem like much to some, it's a lot to others. The second one is under longevity. In the May meeting, in the minutes of June, you can find that the original proposal for changing longevity was for all employees currently working in the district. It was restated and then rewritten as all employees hired after 2017 or prior to 2017. If you were not already receiving your longevity, you were no longer going to get it. I do know that in the front of the secretarial handbook, it says we are not allowed to use that as a bargaining tool or something to work from. I don't know what we do have if we don't have that. We were given a handshake when we were hired and told that this was something that we would get. And I understand that there are budget cuts that need to be made. That particular budget cut won't affect anyone. There are 4 of us in 2 years that will affect the district's budget by $880. It doesn't seem like much,